So hello everybody who is joining us. Welcome to the GESAwards 2021 UK Regional Semi-Finals. The aim of the GESAwards is to find the most promising EdTech startup of the year and celebrate that potential by providing them with a global platform and through their well-deserved recognition at the VET show in January. This year, EdTech is hosting the semi-finals event entirely virtually, as are most of the regional partners, and we've got a fantastic 2-hour event lined up for you. If this is your first time attending an EdTech online event, my name is Rowan Wells. I'm the Director of Research Communication, non-academic at EdTech Ventures Research, and EdTech has been running the GESAwards for the UK every year since 2018. As I am the main host, I'm in charge of the room settings, so if you see me look away for a moment or you hear a pause in my delivery, that's because I'm letting people into the room as we speak. You will notice that your microphones are all muted. I will also turn off cameras so that there is no distraction from the wonderful speakers and pictures that we have today. So the running order for the day is that we are going to have a keynote speech on evidence-empowered EdTech from 2 of our directors heading up the EdTech Accelerator program. That's Doctors Anissa Moeini and Dr. Becky Sage. And then we're going to quickly go through the format of the pitches and have our celebrity education and EdTech judges introduce themselves. For each pitch, we're going to go in alphabetical order of the company name. The pitchers will share their screen and when ready, pitch for 3 minutes to our judges, which I will time and cut them off if they go over 3 minutes. And if our judges have any questions at the end, they can ask and have them answered in a 2-minute Q&A session. And we'll then go to the next pitcher in the order. So that's going to take up the majority of the event's time and should conclude around 3:30, if not a little sooner. Our companies today are Adapt, Bullet Map Academy, NataHub, Project Set, Role Models, Quilgo, SamLabs, Unifrog, ZNotes, and Zish. And when all the pitchers have done their thing, the judges will be whisked away to confer on the winner in a secret breakout room and will decide on the winning company, as well as selecting 2 runners-up for the GESA Bootcamp to be held in the new year. Whilst the judges do this, we are very lucky to have an EdTech Roundtable led by a friend of the program, Tom Hooper, who's founder and CEO of Third Space Learning, who will chair a discussion on research in EdTech with the EdTech Accelerator program alumni, Blue Shift Coding, Busu, and Tassamai. If there's some time at the end, we will have a little Q&A session with them. So should you have any questions during the roundtable, please feel free to post them in the chat. When the judges come back, we'll announce the winner and runners-up, and that should all be done by 4 o'clock, and we can relax and have a lovely weekend. So anyway, now without further delay, I would like to hand over to my colleagues Becky and Anissa to present to you all, and let me just find them quickly in the list, and we will get on with it shortly. Anissa, can you speak? Becky, can you speak?
Hi, everyone.
Yeah. Hello. We're unmuted. It's all good. The mutes are working. Thank you, Roland. So the way this is going to work, we're just going to have a quick conversation really between Anissa and I. So I'll do a bit of an introduction and facilitate some questions with Anissa. And then we've only got 10 minutes, so it'll be a short, sharp overview of this link between research and entrepreneurship within the EdTech sector and the impact of having evidence in what we do. So as Roland said, I'm Director of Acceleration at Educate, and I also had a startup of my own for a number of years in the EdTech sector. I went through the Educate program as well as kind of doing many of the other things that you as EdTech companies will be very familiar with. And Anissa is the founder of Gold Star, and she's the expert in residence for impact at Educate Ventures. So as we all know, EdTech is a very complex sector to exist in. As an EdTech startup, we have all the normal things that we have to do as a startup, but we're also developing products and services that have the potential to have a huge impact on teaching and learning for individuals, for the education industry, and therefore on the future of society. I don't think I have to convince anyone in this room that there are big implications in terms of whether we deliver good or bad EdTech products into the market. But unlike medical or food products, EdTech products can go straight to market without evaluation. Now, that might seem like it's going to make our lives a bit easier as EdTech companies, but it also means that we have no clear framework or standards, and that leads to more uncertainty across the whole sector and potentially puts buyers in a vulnerable position. I know that we've all probably heard the stories of schools, teachers, individuals who have been burnt in the past by EdTech, and so then feel more afraid about engaging with us as EdTech developers and EdTech companies. So it's really important that we look at how we build trust and try to bring together the gap between EdTech developers and the education market. Lockdown has resulted in many real-world experiments in EdTech, particularly in online learning, and it's becoming clear that mindsets are shifting in all sorts of different ways, but change is definitely afoot. Student outcomes are, of course, at the front of mind for many education institutions. And if they're going to procure technology-based solutions, they need confidence that EdTech is going to help achieve those desired outcomes. And that confidence can come from evidence. Up till now, many of the people across the market, investors, EdTech companies, education procurers, have had a bit of a blind spot when it comes to evaluating and communicating the efficacy of products. So since 2017, the Educate program has been working in this space, and they've worked with over 300 EdTech companies to help understand and use data so that they can produce evidence about what works and make required improvements when we figure out that things aren't working. So we've got so many talented research-minded entrepreneurs, and that includes everybody here today. I know many of you are alumni of the Educate program as well. And you're already using evidence to drive decisions and communication about your EdTech products. So the market is poised, and I think it's really important that now is the time that we double down on creating a research mindset across the education sector. So this is where I want to pull Anissa in, because Anissa, you built an enterprise-based, your business is based on research that you carried out kind of looking at the Educate program and working with some of the companies on the Educate program to try and help you understand this blind spot that exists in terms of how we use and communicate with evidence. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing at Gold Star and the research you've done on the Educate companies. What did the most successful companies at Educate have in common?
So thanks, Becky. Basically, I built a model that suggests what all successful EdTech companies should develop. And I call it the 6 superpowers of EdTech companies. And Gold Star has basically developed an assessment to quickly measure where you're at with those superpowers for EdTech companies to know what to develop so that they could be as strong as their more successful peers, and for investors and buyers, procurers to have a tool to quickly gauge the impact potential of EdTech companies in their pipeline and to really reward the companies that have built out these superpowers. So that's basically Gold Star's tool does that. And the companies that have been through the Educate program since July have all gotten this baseline assessment, and Gold Star is going to be sort of available for everyone from January to get these assessments, to be able to assess basically how you're doing on these 6 superpowers, which are really quickly leadership vision. So that's the most successful superpower. It's the one that really everything else depends on, is the ability for EdTech founders and leadership to be able to run a successful learning enterprise. And then there's learning culture, which is really the primary goal of leadership, is to establish a business that is constantly a learning organization where there's constant flow of information, and the company is basically learning how to constantly improve their tool, and the EdTech is always becoming better, and their sense of purpose, which is a strong and coherent intent and knowledge of the education problem that's being solved, and strong values within the business. And there's teamwork, research know-how, which Educate helps to develop more directly, that mastery of how to collect data and how to prove your product works and to continuously better and get evidence that's helping you strategically to make decisions to continuously better that product, and your action orientation, which is basically pivoting and proof that you are constantly pivoting and developing and building great tools. And I know that today we're going to see a lot of companies that are showing a lot of these superpowers, and it's going to be really great to see those pitches. Oh, Becky, you're muted.
Sorry, I muted myself in between. I forgot I then could turn it back off myself again. So what is it that really makes good evidence? Because I like you said, many of the superpowers you just spoke about, I'm sure are things that startups are thinking about anyway, and scale-ups, businesses in this space. But what is it that really you would think is good in terms of evidence, and the companies you've seen, the ones who've really been able to run with it and develop this research mindset and develop their superpowers, what kind of evidence is that?
I think what's good evidence is really similar to what makes a good pitch or a company that can summarize what they're doing, is what is that piece of data that you need in order to make your next decision. And evidence, a lot of times, good evidence is sometimes it's not the one that takes a long time to find. Sometimes it's what you need, it's relevant evidence, and that's sooner. And so that's why when you're looking at research know-how and that mastery of the strategies that academics and researchers have of how to get that evidence, it's useful to know that, so that sometimes you can make a decision that actually good evidence for me is something that I can have today to make my business decisions, to empower me, versus waiting for something in a, for example, randomized control trial that might take a long time and that's irrelevant by the time that information comes. So good evidence is about clarity of understanding those data points that you need in order to make your decisions, and having somebody in your team or resources that you can lean on from outside the team that can help you with that strategy and the data collection strategy.
Something we've noticed in many of the companies we're working with at the moment is that one of the real value adds of developing or using different tools to get clear about a research strategy, what has helped them is around working with their teams and actually bringing teams on board and getting clearer about what the impact is and how you're going to make that impact. And you mentioned, for example, the learning culture is a really important part of an EdTech or an evidence-led EdTech enterprise. What is it that kind of really can help people have this learning culture or develop a research mindset across a team and not just hold it kind of tightly in the founder's head, for example?
I mean, definitely it's an openness. It's that idea of a growth mindset that Dweck talks about in a lot of her work. The book Mindset is really good to start to develop that understanding of constantly being open to learning. Leadership can really develop that by coming on the Educate program with team members, and also whoever comes on the program can turn around and teach that. Some of our most successful companies would turn around and teach that information back to the rest, whoever was on the program, to the rest of the team, or to break it up into, depending on the size of your business, into different multidisciplinary teams from different areas of the business, and really getting feedback from everybody to have a good picture of the kind of data that you'd need that would be helpful for everything from sales to development, so that everyone has an idea of what's everyone can chime into the kind of data that's useful, and everyone can have an idea of what's going on with the research and evidence as well. So it is a team activity. And I think that honestly, the Educate program can help to make that, to structure that first effort around developing a research mindset. So that's definitely something that companies should take advantage of.
I mentioned that with my previous startup, our team went through the Educate program, and it was actually one of the biggest value adds, actually, was being able to move the research mindset into the wider team. We had academics that were on our team, but they'd end up in their little space over here, and it wouldn't necessarily infiltrate through the team. And by bringing the team onto the program, that really helped. So thanks, Anissa. I wanted to close, I'm pretty much on time, Roland, just with a couple of things that our companies have talked about as well, some of the recent companies who are in the current cohorts on the Educate program. One is Abby from Zilta, who said, embedding a research mindset across my business has helped me to understand my audience better and streamline my offering to produce impactful results. So I think it's that's something that we talk about a lot, that idea of really streamlining, focusing. Sometimes people think that that research and generating evidence pulls your focus away from your commercial goals, but what we're finding all the time is it actually pulls that focus in, because it's giving you really clear decision-making information. And then Kavita from Synaptic said, developing an understanding of the research tools has helped us to become aware of the various methodology that exists to collect data specific to our field. Having a research mindset integrated to our very tool has helped in our business at every aspect. And I think so many of our businesses talk about using this across the business. So it's not only about talking to your customers or refining your product, it's also, she talks about planning and implementation, testing hypotheses in different parts of the business and learning how to do that. And she talks about continuously conducting their own internal R&D as part of their tech development process. So, and then I really like the last point that Kavita said to me when she was talking about this. She said, relying on evidence and data has helped us not only to discover our own strengths and weaknesses, but also those of our competitors, and has helped us to position ourselves in a much more strategic manner. So it really does go from, you know, thinking about your product and the details about the product, all the way to how do you position yourself and where are you in terms of where you can make a difference and where you're most likely to get that commercial success. So I'm really excited to hear from all the semi-finalists this afternoon. I hope everyone has a really great afternoon, and Roland has put a link in the chat if you want to hear more about the Educate program. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Anissa.
Thanks, Anissa. Thanks, Becky. That's wonderful. Yeah, great, wonderful. And as Becky says, the link to more information about the program, and if you'd like to apply for the program, is in the chat at the moment, if you'd like to investigate that. So thank you very much to Becky and Anissa for their contribution. And I would now like to have our wonderful judges introduce themselves and just say a little bit about themselves and their expertise. And I'm just going to locate them and find them and turn on their microphones for you. So Katerina, there you are. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Is everything online?
Yes, I can. Hi, Roland.
Real. Oh, you might need to lean a little bit closer to the mic, I think, maybe.
Okay. Hi, Roland. How are you?
Right, right. Let us tell us a little bit about yourself, Katerina.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Katerina Cooper, and I'm Principal Researcher and Head of Research Training on Accelerator at Educate. And I was involved in different sorts of research over the last 15 years, specifically focusing on well-being and mental health and children's developmental psychology. Since 2018, I became a research mentor on Face-to-Face Accelerator, and I'm carrying on. I'm really enjoying to help EdTech companies to become evidence-based.
Thank you very much, Katerina. And we've got Dr. Becky Sage again, as one of our judges.
Hello. You don't really need to hear much more from me, but yeah, I'm really excited to hear this afternoon. And yeah, I think one thing to say about work I'm doing on the Educate program is really about building community and trying to build out a community even more. So I work alongside Katerina very closely in terms of running the program and making sure that we not only support you in terms of evidence and EdTech, but produce a peer group that can help one another, and a community that can help one another as we all rise up together.
Real. I'm having a little bit of trouble grabbing the video of Ricardo and Richard, who are other judges, but I'll just introduce them myself for a second. Oh, no, Ricardo's back. There we go. Ricardo, everything online there? I think you might be muted just for a sec.
Yeah, I'm muted. Do we have to introduce myself?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay, my name is Ricardo Schneider. All my life I have been an entrepreneur in the technology field. Over the last 15 years, technology applied to education. More recently, I was the VP for innovation at Somos Educação, the biggest K-12 education conglomerate here in Brazil. And through the work there, we allowed Somos to went through a successful IPO on NASDAQ last year. Recently, I left to go back to a more entrepreneurial work again. I'm a partner and chief scientific officer of an investment fund here in Brazil now, Square Knowledge Ventures, that invest in a more radical innovation in education, specifically evidence-based education and science of learning.
Thanks, Ricardo. That's wonderful. And the fourth judge, I just wonder if there's a little bit of delay on his end, but I'll introduce him anyway, is Richard Kalata, who is the Chief Executive Officer at ISTE. And he is a long time.
I'll say hello myself. Sorry, I didn't have control to be able to come on the screen, so that's why I wasn't on. But I'm here. I'm thrilled to be here. I am Richard Kalata. I'm the CEO of ISTE, as you mentioned. Also the former director of education technology for the U.S. Department of Education, and again, very excited to be with the judges and meet the group today.
Thanks, Richard. That's great. Okay, so the first contestant up is Hussein from a company called Adapt. Let me just see if I can locate him. Hussein, everything's online. Okay, so I think as mentioned at the beginning, if once you're ready, feel free to please share your screen. And what I will do is as soon as you start talking, basically activate the stopwatch to time you, and then you've got 3 minutes, and then you'll go into a sort of a Q&A session. So as soon as you're ready, start speaking, and I'll start the timer.
Imagine being an 18-year-old now, due to sit your A-levels in the summer of 2022. Unlike all of you or me, or any A-level student in history, you've never sat your GCSEs. In fact, you've never sat a formal exam before. And now, with no experience of how to do it, you have to prepare for and sit the most important exams of your life in the aftermath of a pandemic. Is it any wonder, therefore, that students are overwhelmed, with 83% reporting feeling sad or anxious at least once a week? Is it any wonder that their greatest worries are getting the grades they need, COVID, and loneliness? And is it any wonder that the thing that they want most is a plan to guide them through this process flexibly and effectively? Enter Adapt, the smart revision timetable that breaks down every subject into modules and topics, allowing students to rate their confidence red, amber, or green, to instantly tailor bespoke revision timetables to their strengths and weaknesses. Adapt, the school's platform, which allows teachers to see exactly where their students do and don't feel confident, allowing them to focus their teaching on areas where students need the help the most. Adapt, the micro community for social study, which connects disadvantaged students from the lowest performing schools to the very best ones for peer learning, community, and camaraderie. We launched in January 2020 and instantly rose to #1 on the Education App Store and 57th overall, beating Deliveroo and Wetherspoons, a career highlight for the team, I might add. We've grown explosively through paid advertising with a student acquisition cost of just 8 pence on Instagram, and organically through our network of 15,000 Teach First teachers and the virality of student word of mouth. Now we're being used by over 325,000 students in over 5,000 schools. We believe educational resources should be free for students, so we monetize indirectly through advertising. The UK market is 4.4 million students with a conservative CLV of £120. We've estimated a market of just over £500 million. But as our user base scales globally, we'll unlock a far greater audience for digital marketing. Ultimately, our customer is anyone whose goal is to acquire students. We've started with the UK university market, where we have an advertising contract signed with a company called Educate. After this, our focus is the £5.6 billion US market, where we've partnered with the New York Department for Education for a launch late in 2021. So why us? Our CEO, Maud, is the market expert with 8 years of experience as a Teach First teacher. Sarah, our CCO, is a cognitive psychologist and student mental health researcher. William, our CTO, has just over 8 years experience building apps from scratch. Then there's me, head of partnerships, with 7 years experience in sales strategy and growth. We believe we've changed the game for UK students. With your help, we can change the game for 261 million students worldwide. Thank you.
Dynamite. Thanks, Hussein. That's great. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up for 2 minutes of questions. If anybody has any questions for you, please, any judges, feel free to ask away.
So I'll go ahead and jump in then. I think this is exciting, a great team, and I love the visualization of the data. My question is about the business model. You pitched it as a positive. You said, look, it's free. I could pitch that another way and say we are bombarding students with ads in order to give them access to educational content. And I actually have pretty deep concerns about that. So I wonder if you can just talk about, have you talked about other ways to consider funding this that didn't involve subjecting students to ads while they were trying to learn?
So we have different models that that we look at to monetize with ads. So far we've shown the students no ads other than university tailored ads. So it's not like we're showing them ads that come from companies that are nothing to do with education. So we're trying to put the best possible ads to the students there. Apart from that, we have a schools product as well, where teachers are able to kind of isolate and see where best to intervene at what point. And that is a paid subscription model that we use for the school side. And other than kind of schools paying as well, we have had conversations with certain banks that are helping kind of sponsor a certain level of schools that perhaps from more deprived areas. But those are the models that we've looked at for advertisement. So but I do understand the concern with putting a McDonald's advert that perhaps has nothing to do with education on the app. But yeah. Oh.
I was just, thank you. That's a good answer. Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Becky, go ahead.
So if you were to go through to the finals of the awards, what would that do for you? How would that open things up? Have you got any plans for how you would use that in your next steps?
I think it would help so much. We plan on an expansion geographically. So not only are we trying to release more platforms to help the students as much as possible, but it is getting awareness out there. And the more that we can get our name out there, the more that we can present at different schools and host assemblies and get as many students using it as possible. So given that platform of winning, it would be a phenomenal opportunity to I guess create a network where we can speak to more local governments that can help us access larger school federations, perhaps worldwide as well as just in the UK here.
Great, thanks.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks very much, Hussein.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Next up, we have Darius from Bullet Map Academy. Darius, I'm just activating your microphone now. Oh, brilliant. Hussein, I'm just going to turn your camera. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Hi, can you see me?
We are just about to see you. We can see your screen. And there you go.
Hi, can you see me okay?
Yeah, we can. So
Great.
when in your own time, Darius, start speaking and I will start the stopwatch.
Okay.
Go.
So, hello, I'm Darius Nomdaron, CEO of Bullet Map Academy. We provide online tutoring and apps for children with dyslexia. 10% of students have dyslexia. They struggle in an education system that's not designed for the way their minds work. Now, it's widely understood that dyslexia affects reading. However, for many, it also affects their ability to organize ideas into coherent essays. This means that many intelligent teenagers with dyslexia fail written exams, locking them out of further education. I have dyslexia, but it's not until you see your child go through this that you realize the full extent of the pain it causes. Our mission is to help 1 million children with dyslexia mind map by 2030. So we developed a way to equip these children to organize their thoughts visually and complete well-structured essays under exam conditions so that they can have the same opportunities other children have. Over the last 4 years, we've systematically designed the solutions. First, we designed a pedagogical tool that combines some elements of mind mapping and Cornell notes with 7 well-researched dyslexia and executive functioning techniques, all into this one-page essay writing tool. We call it the bullet map process, and we have the IP. Second, we wanted to find the right user experience. So we took the Y Combinator approach to work closely with 100 paying users to find exactly what they needed and would pay for. And parents pay over £100 monthly subscription. We developed a premium tutoring program with online tutors based in the Philippines. Parents and children love it, and annual retention is over 75%. Our results are transformative. Children consistently report greater confidence, better results, and less anxiety. Thirdly, we built a highly rated dyslexia screening app that's top of the iPhone search results for dyslexia. We found product market fit. So we're now developing our product pathway. Next, we want to create a mid-range product by putting the bullet map process into an iPad app for £15 a month. It'll be a freemium model. We want to integrate machine learning to give users some of the immediate feedback that our tutors would give. And our goal is to build this into a digital dyslexia assistant. We want to commission research in schools to quantify how much just 15 sessions of this tool can raise children from a fail to a pass in GCSE short story English writing. We're here today because we want to meet the people who can help us go to the next level and reach our global goal of seeing dyslexic teenagers thrive in school. Thanks for listening. Roland, over to you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Darius. That was great. What I've done actually now is I've allowed everybody to unmute themselves. So hopefully that won't result in any chaos. So please feel free to unmute yourselves and ask any questions should you wish, please, judges. Ricardo?
Hi.
Becky?
Oh, no. I found the presentation perfect.
My
great
question.
Job and great job on giving a clear sense of what it is in 5 minutes.
Thank you.
I can jump in with a question. So could you just describe the pricing strategy a little bit more? You were saying that when you did the Y Combinator approach, you had 100 students and you were showing that parents would pay up to £100, and then you showed your different pricing or your different price points for different aspects of the product. Would you mind just explaining that a little bit more, and how you got to the price points that you've ended up with now?
Well, we actually started with the most expensive price point first, the premium first, to get the real depth of what people would pay for, rather than guessing that. And then we're working backwards. So they're paying over £100 a month, some 150, some 125. Now, and the iPad, the quiz, dyslexia quiz, is free. And then that mid-range of having it as a tool on your iPad is 15. So that will have free versions in it as well. So it will be a premium model. Okay, 0, yeah, 15, 150 a month.
I have one question. As I mentioned, I got a clear view of what you're offering, but I would like you to mention what you have in terms of evidence of effectiveness of the process, of the method.
That's my question too. I'm going to tack on there because we have the same question. And also you mentioned about doing future studies. So current evidence and future studies. I think that is your product is really dependent on having some solid evidence. So if you could talk to both current and future, that would answer both of our questions. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we have qualitative evidence right now, and now we need to move to quantitative evidence. So what we've tried to do is not to stay in the academic and the research and theoretical realm, but really concentrate on the user experience and work out what the children actually would use in class in an exam, by paper or computer or whatever they're allowed. So what we've got is these case studies of children who have not been able to write an essay in their life up to the age of 13 with dyslexia, some of the most extreme cases. And then with our program, within like 15 sessions, they can write a story from beginning to end that actually makes coherent sense. And so we've worked through that process, and it's now ready to be tested under a GCSE type environment. Can you write a GCSE short story? Right, you write it, then you go through this process. What's your GCSE short story look like now? And you compare that with a randomized trial. We're ready for that. And grade them, obviously. So there's a real quantitative grade, because GCSE has a set requirement that you can't arbitrarily decide whether it's good or bad. It's just a grade.
Just a quick follow-up. Okay, so you have qualitative evidence, you're moving to get more quantitative evidence. Great. But how much what you developed is based on previous research on education and learning and dyslexia?
Okay, so in effect, what we're doing is we're sitting on the shoulders of giants, giants like Tony Buzan, mind mapping, Cornell, executive function research, dyslexia tutoring techniques. What we've done is more like integrate a user experience of these established research techniques. We've not done the research on that. That's already been done for the last 30 years. We've pulled them into a user experience.
Well, thanks everybody. I've got to stop the questioning just because we've got to fit everybody in, but I really appreciate that. Thanks, Darius, that's wonderful. So to get to the next participant, we have got Caroline from NataHub. Caroline, I'm just activating your mic and camera now. When you are free, when you are ready, please feel free to share your screen and we will take it away.
Thank you.
Brill, we can see that, yeah.
Perfect. Let's make sure. Thank you. Good afternoon, my name is Caroline Allens and I'm the co-founder at NataHub. NataHub addresses a deeply concerning pain point, that of online vulnerability. Exacerbated by the pandemic, the statistics you see are a stark reminder of why we need something like NataHub in schools. Grooming and online child abuse has spiked, and the greatest concern is around the increase of self-generated imagery from girls between the ages of 7 to 11. And the pain point we address is that despite online safety being part of the compulsory curriculum, teachers need significant support, guidance, and resources in order to deliver this subject. So how do we provide an innovative pedagogical approach? We know that children learn best through doing. That's why we created an immersive, gated environment that looks and feels like social media. Why? Because when a learning tool resonates with their real life experiences, it creates more impact. And we're the only tool that takes this unique approach towards online safety and media literacy. We've got teacher-led lessons. These are fast-paced lessons. They've been designed to generate dialogue around pupils' experiences of being online. We've got interactive, animated teacher lessons. These are highly engaging and great for independent learning. Everything is tracked and assessed, making it time-saving and informative for teachers. We provide data at pupil, class, school, and MAT level. Our gated newsfeed is a critical space where pupils can actually practice digital communication skills. And we know that teachers need to stay in control. So we've designed our tool so that every feature can be toggled off. NataHub teaches digital citizenship and the soft skills that underpin positive online behaviour. It promotes digital resilience, online empathy, digital wellness, and kindness. Pupils love NataHub, as one boy in Preston recently told me, "You made this specially for kids." They can track their own progress and communicate with their peers. Teachers have a whole school solution, and they tell us that NataHub is intuitive, engaging, and innovative. Our anonymous polls that feature in every lesson form points for discussion and also guide our tool development. We have a data document available from our website from the first 12 months of NataHub. It's really a unique insight into how children really feel about being online and the impact our lessons can have on digital understanding. Wherever there is technology, there is online vulnerability for children. We have a SaaS global business model and have different bandings depending on school size. We were invited by Microsoft Teams Apps for Education to be the first online safety company in their platform. We launch at the end of the month. Twinkle is a global publisher with over 12 million users, and we've been so fortunate to have had their backing and to be part of the Twinkle Hive Accelerator. A school the other day said to me, with NataHub, we've been
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you very much. Sorry.
That's fine.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Judges, do we have any questions?
Let me ask one. I was trying to figure this out by looking at the screenshots, and I know this is just obviously a very short time, and so sorry I wasn't able to tell. But from what I saw, there were questions about, you know, sort of body image and safety, and a lot of that felt very internal, like how about me as a student, which is incredibly important. What I didn't see in the couple screenshots went by about thinking about how technology can be used to be an effective digital citizen by contributing to making digital spaces better for others. And I think that's actually a pretty key part of being healthy. It's not just keep you safe, but it's actually creating safe spaces and effective spaces and problem solving. Is that part of the curriculum at all?
Yes, absolutely. And what we really generate around our lessons is the notion of taking responsibility and the part we all play towards digital citizenship. So absolutely, you raise the issue of it's not just around how we feel when we are online, but actually what can we contribute to make positive contributions to group scenarios when we're in the when we are online.
Thank you. And one more quick follow-on question to that. This is clearly based for students. Fantastic. Do you have anything, is there any part of this that is also providing parents and teachers some support so that they're lining their messages up?
Absolutely. We have a parent login, which the teachers can choose to share with their parents. And this means that we are taking that triangular approach in the same way that we do when we're teaching children to read, for example. We're taking the same approach with media literacy so that that important messaging is being transferred to the home environment. And we also have a parent space on our website where parents can go in and research popular YouTubers, popular platforms, and just get bite-sized information so that they are feeling more empowered in having those conversations. And it's also in our future plans to create a parent app too.
Becky?
Yeah, so it's obviously really important that students feel secure to speak on this platform. And there's also the added layer of course, there's actual student data here that you're dealing with. So can you say a little bit more about how you ensure that the data is safe, and also how you ensure that the students feel safe to actually share so that they can get the full, you know, benefits of using the platform?
Sure. I mean, the platform is gated to every school, and within the school there are hubs. So these are effectively gated classrooms within our tool. The polls that feature in every one of our lessons are anonymized. That data is anonymized, and really what we are gearing the tool to do at the heart of it is the teacher and the dialogue that goes around the classroom, because nobody knows the children better than the teacher that's leading that discussion. And to support that, we've got teacher notes and lesson plans to really guide those teachers, even if they're a little bit tech reticent, so that really it's so much more about the human aspect of being on a screen that we're putting at the heart of the lessons.
That's wonderful. Thanks everybody. I think the Q&A sessions are going over 2 minutes. So I think what we'll do is we'll just say that we have 2 questions rather than saying 2 minutes, because 2 minutes is clearly not enough. So, but thank you very much for the presentation, Caroline. That's wonderful. So next up, we have Dhruva from Project Set presenting. Dhruva, if you just turn on your camera, where are you? Oh. So your screen shares come through, your mic and your camera on, and when you are ready, please start talking, and I will press the start on the stopwatch.
Sure, you can hear me all right?
We can hear you perfectly fine, yeah.
Great, so let's get started. So good afternoon. My name is Dhruva Banerjee, and I'm the co-founder of Project Set. About 40 million students join the workforce every year without adequate soft skills. And that is a huge cost for both the employer and the student communities. So we founded Project Set to address this. And to do it, we set up an online platform for work-based learning programs where any learner, doesn't matter what financial background they have or what the background is, can select to work on a project, and they can work on these projects anytime. They could work either on the weekends or in the evenings. They don't need to commit full time, and they can work on these projects from any location. They don't have to commute. They don't have to relocate. So what we have done is democratize their access to real world projects where they can practice and demonstrate their skills. And they can do that collaboratively, working with peers and mentors. And most importantly, they get to retain all the data and evidence to help guide their skill development journey over time. So let me show you how this works. In the first instance, what we do is allow an employer or an educator to set up a project where they define a piece of work that needs to be done and the timeline over which that work needs to be done. Once that is defined, in the second stage, they put together a student team, and they can either select this team by looking at the student profile and just a click to select them, or they can invite specific students to join, or they can just allow the students to form their own teams. Once the team is formed, our platform automatically creates a private virtual workspace for each team where the team can meet up and do video meetings, they can have chat, they can share files, and they can do all types of collaboration that are important. But more importantly, it also allows the mentors to check in and track the progress, see the kind of work that's going on, and also schedule meetings for a real-time feedback. Once the project is completed in the final stage, it's time for reflection on the skills that all these participants have built up. And these is built from the feedback from the mentors, from the peers, and also objective machine data. Now, as we walk our users through these 4 stages, which we call case, we give them access to more opportunities because the learners are no longer restricted to look at opportunities in their own vicinity. We allow them to save a lot of time because a lot of the tasks are automated. They don't have to commute. They don't have to relocate. We also give them 24/7 visibility because mentors don't have to depend on the reporting back from the students on how things are going. And finally, we allow students to build up a digital portfolio to showcase their skills because skills are built through practice and not by just reading books. So we are currently working in the UK with user community from universities and employers. And we have also gone through some of the Accelerator programs and won awards.
Thank you, Dhruva.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. That's wonderful. Judges, oh, Katerina, you can actually unmute yourself now. So I've enabled that. Please go ahead.
Hi, Drew. Thank you for the presentation. It was really great. Can you tell a little bit more about the feedback machine data? What sort of?
So we are at the early stages of creating a set of feedback machine data. So what we have right now is a structure which tracks the collaboration level that exists within a team. So we track things like for each user, how much messaging they're doing, how much they're engaging, how many files they're uploading. So it tracks things like the teamwork, their communication, which complements a lot of the feedback that comes in from their peers and mentors. In the longer term, we're actually complementing that with other kinds of information that we're going to track.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ricardo, Richard, Becky?
I'll jump in if nobody else has a question. Hi, Dhruva, thanks for the presentation. Could you speak a little bit more about the business model, please?
Sure. So our business model is we charge the employers who use our platform to do projects with students, either in terms of a virtual internship or a virtual hackathon. And they pay us a fee, basically, which is for building their brand amongst these students, but more important, to cherry pick the most promising talent that have shown the potential by working on those projects. So it's a skill-based recruiting system for them.
Okay. Thanks very much, Dhruva.
Thank you.
Thank you, judges. So next up, I believe we have Hugo. Hugo with role models. Let me find you, Hugo. Where are you in our list? There we go. And your video is working. Is everything online, Hugo? Speaking, hearing, seeing?
I can hear you guys all right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Yeah. You got your screen share sorted out? I think maybe Hugo, lean a little bit closer to the to the microphone, maybe, or speak a tiny little bit louder.
Yeah, will do. Is that better?
Real, that's perfect. There we go. Okay, so Hugo, when you are ready, please start talking.
Sure. Great. Hello, everyone. My name's Hugo Shepherd. I'm founder and managing director of Role Models. So to tell you a little bit about Role Models, we're an education provider with a real focus on social and emotional well-being. And we wrap that up in the term life skills. And by life skills, we mean we develop skills in young people like resilience, leadership, collaboration, creative problem solving. So the problem we're looking to tackle is that, as we all know, mental health amongst young people is at a record low. This is some data from an NHS report released in January on the stark deterioration in mental health amongst 5 to 16-year-olds from 2017 through to 2020. And we know this is not just a UK problem, this is very much a global problem. Our solution, focused very much on prevention rather than cure, is we've developed our own unique set of content, our own curriculum, that we train up our hand-picked inspirational role models to deliver. It's a mixture of teachers, artists, actors, etc. And they deliver that to 3 to 15-year-olds around the world via group Zoom sessions. These are our 4 core life skills. Just to bring it to life slightly, resilience might incorporate sessions such as getting outside of your comfort zone or building emotional resilience, understanding the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset, or dealing with negative thoughts. This is our online business model. We have 175 different sessions available for people to book onto. They're charged £25 for a 60-minute session, and at full courses with maximum of 9 learners per course, we have a gross margin of 80% plus. The size of the opportunity in the global private tuition market, as you can imagine, is huge. So it's currently at £75 billion, that the value of that market, and set to grow over the next 5 years to £139 billion. And of course, COVID has accelerated that. These are our online sales channels. We sell directly to consumer. We also sell through employee benefits providers. We partner with schools and deliver either directly to those schools or deliver to those pupils in the holidays, or through international distributors such as Outschool. This is our online traction since April 2020. We've delivered 254K of revenue to children in 38 different countries around the world, and maintain really high feedback scores across Google, Outschool and Facebook. And we've just put in a few examples of the sorts of corporates that we're working with when delivering our employee benefits, and also the sorts of schools that we're partnering with around the world. Thank you very much, and happy to take any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Hugo.
Yeah, I have one. Always, we have been looking at a lot in Brazil at social emotional solutions, skill solutions. Always, we come back to the same point. How you evaluate progression, how you assess results. Do you have what do you have about that in your solution?
Yeah, it's as you well know, it's a tricky one, because you're looking to measure soft skills, which are by their very nature difficult. We've looked at lots of different ways. At the moment, we think the best way that we've got is through surveying the children and the parents who attend the courses. And obviously the parents, we feel, in the best position to understand the impact our courses are having on those children. At the moment, it says that 82% of parents feel the skills we're developing are having a positive impact on their children's future, and the same percentage in terms of children who feel that the skills will help them in future. But yeah, it's a tricky area, and funnily enough, it's one of the reasons we're joining the Educate program in January, to try and continually improve that assessment.
I wasn't going to say it, but I was going to. I thought we saw your name on the list, so that's exciting. I have a question, if nobody else is going to jump in with one, which is about, of course, as you scale, you've got to ensure that you continue to do really good delivery for every single student that is that's coming onto your program. How do you ensure that consistency in terms of the delivery of courses?
Yeah, so we start off by having a robust training process in place. We review the delivery of our role models in their early stages, and then we keep a very close eye on the feedback scores that they're receiving from parents, which we monitor across the board. And if we are getting any low feedback scores, then we'll intervene by watching the recording of that session and giving that role model some feedback on how they can improve. Or if we don't feel that's possible, then we'll need to let them go. So we keep a really close eye on individual role models and how they're the quality of their delivery.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Becky. Wonderful. Okay, so I managed to skip over one of our companies. I seem to have got my Q's and R's the wrong way around for some reason. So next, I would like to introduce Igor to present for his company, Quilgo. Igor, when you are ready, please share your screen, which you have done, and start talking, and I will start the stopwatch then.
Thank you. Hi there. So my name is Igor, and today I'm presenting you Quilgo. Quilgo is a tool for making online assessments easy and trustworthy. Quilgo solves a problem for millions of teachers. Online assessment nowadays are needed more than ever, and existing solutions, they lack essential features or are difficult to use, or sometimes both. Today, over 150 million students and teachers use Google Forms. We added automated proctoring to prevent cheating and analytics on top of Google Forms. Here's how it works. Students check in to access their personal test links, they enable camera and screen sharing, and then they take the tests the way they already got used to, like in Google Forms. And teachers simply see stats and analytics, can view proctoring reports, and continue to import as many forms as they like. We are #3 most popular and top-rated Google Forms add-on, and we are used by the worldwide recognized universities such as Stanford, Oxford, Harvard, etc. Why? Because we are a go-to solution for teachers' daily use. We're easy to use and efficient compared to our competitors. We're constantly growing. We have more than 130,000 active teachers at the moment, more than 1,000 daily registrations, and more than 18 million online examinations conducted throughout the system so far. And this was all done without spending a penny on promotion. We're also self-supported. We have about more than 3,000 actively paying customers, which allows us to employ 5 people at the moment, and this is all without any investments at all. We're at a very sweet position. We are early stage, we have proven business model and registered trademark. We also have a representative office in Indonesia where we carry out R&D and focus groups to understand the impact on the education in general. And of course, we're constantly improving user experience and building new features. We have massive potential. At the moment, we're signing data agreements with the United States districts, which allow us to expose to their schools. We support more payment methods, and we are finally detaching from Google. We're going platform agnostic with our own technology, own forms. We have big opportunities as well. We're looking forward to introduce artificial intelligence in proctoring to prevent cheating to the next level. And also we are looking forward to partnering with universities and curriculum providers. My name is Igor, co-founder of Quilgo. Thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Wonderful, Igor. Thank you very much. Judges.
Let me go ahead and jump in. First of all, I love that you're focusing on the assessment space. That's great. I wish there were a lot more innovations there. And from a business standpoint, really looks very solid. What I didn't see though, and I want to give you a chance to clarify, is that it looked like the model of assessments that you're promoting is kind of the same thing we've always done, right? Take some multiple choice style assessments, which actually I'm not sure we want more of, right? Like I actually want better assessments, not just more proctored assessments. So is there any part of your tool that's helping to actually innovate on the model of assessments themselves, or is it really just kind of multiple choice tests?
It can be anything that is allowed in Google Forms at the moment, but on top you have proctoring and you have timing. So in terms of, I would say in terms of how it's done, it's up to a teacher. So whatever they can do, we can do. So we are technology guys. We provide the technology that they need.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks. I would encourage you in the future to think about some technologies that could expand the types of assessments that teachers can give, because I think I think this is a great area that you're focusing on, but I think we need more innovation in the type of assessments that are offered, not just making sure that kids aren't cheating.
Sure, sounds great. Thank you.
I'd like to ask about your origin story. Where did this come from? And why did you start doing this in the first place?
Funnily enough, we did it for ourselves. For recruiting purposes. We tried to hire someone and they cheated, so we just built it overnight, honestly. And then we realized once we rolled it out, once we see some traction, we realized, well, it's for education, which was obvious, but not necessarily straightforward from the start.
Interesting. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Igor. Thanks, judges. That was wonderful. Thank you. Next up, I am going to go back to the alphabetical order. I can't quite believe that I got the alphabetical order out of order, seeing as I do work in education. That seems strange, but never mind. We have Joaquin speaking for Sam Labs. Joaquin, oh, yep, share your screen, turn on your camera and your microphone. And when you are ready, please start talking and I will press start on the stopwatch.
Apparently you stopped my my video has been stopped. It's telling me I can't start my video because
don't worry, let me see if I can do something. Where are you? Right, I've just clicked ask to start video. Is that on? Yeah, that's right. Wonderful. Okay, take it away when you are ready, please, sir.
All right. Hi, everyone, and congrats on all the pictures so far. It's been incredibly inspiring to hear. I'll give a quick rundown of Sam Labs and what it is that we do and where we stand. So there's a global need to tackle the shortage of coding and STEAM professionals globally. There's a global skill shortage and skills gap. And we've observed that globally, K-12 schools struggle to meet the various governments' coding and STEAM standards and even mandates. New York public schools, for example, will need to be teaching every single kid to code starting 2024, and no teacher here is prepared. We've seen a 300% growth in this market and quite a few analogs. We have grown close to 300% in the last year and are set to continue growing this year. We have launched a annual subscription revenue to our product just this year that has grown 4-digit, and we have a healthy customer mix. We're looking to grow, so we're raising a growth round with profitability at the end of 2023 with 30% already committed. A bit about the problem, which you probably all know, we need more STEM skilled workers. Teachers are being asked too many things for the time and the energy they have, and they're really aren't given the right resources, and ultimately that's failing the next generation of students. The good thing is that spending is ballooning in these sectors, but isn't actually either being spent or spent on the right things. And this is where our solution comes in. It's already in 6,000 schools globally. We reduce teacher workload by providing all the standards aligned curriculum material that teachers need. We increase their confidence we don't increase their workload, we increase their confidence by providing the skills and the training they need. And then we've got a series of apps and materials that fit any lesson topic and bring it to life to increase student engagement. And we fit into budget lines in schools. So we sell one-off kits here on the right of the screen to set up, but then we have a rolling $999 per year subscription to our content, our resources, and our supports. We have managed to build ourselves to be not only affordable, but have a complete solutions that teachers love and don't take only our teachers or our direct customers' word for it. We've run independent studies for our customers' satisfaction through EdSurge or the Learning Council. We've also ran qualitative studies on correlation, quantitative studies, sorry, of correlation of science improvement, both in State College area, Pennsylvania, and Harmony Public Schools, and shown science score improvement using our solution. And being in 6,000 schools globally, we've seen some really neat growth with lighthouse districts like Portland Public Schools, Dallas ISD, and have just announced a partnership with Miami-Dade Public Schools where we'll be deployed as pilots in each of their 9 voting districts. We've got a lot coming up, and I would love to tell you more about it. Thank you, Roland, and sorry for going over time.
No worries. I feel terribly guilty always cutting people off, but thank you, that was wonderful. Judges, do we have any questions, please?
It's not clear for me. Well, there is a lot of players in the maker and STEM in STEM space. It's not totally clear for me what you believe it's your main differential. What's unique or special about the way you do, or is only about because it's complete and has all the pieces?
Well. Teachers struggle to make sense of these solutions because they don't provide standards aligned. So thinking about teachers' constraints in state schools and public schools, they need to teach to standards and to state tests, high stakes tests. We're the only solution that actually provides a rigorous curriculum that integrates the curriculum that they already have and supplements it and shows score improvement. So yes, it is a busy market with a lot of goodwill, but so far we demarket ourselves and managed to achieve growth thanks to the completeness of our solution and understanding teachers' constraints.
I had a question around the studies that you did, and you had lots of good information on all of these slides, and I think I was busy trying to have a look and see the data. No, that's fine. I know you only have a very, very small amount of time to tell us a lot, but could you talk a little bit more about, because I think proficiency is what you were measuring, and I'd like to understand a little bit more what is meant by proficiency and how you measured that, and even some of the outputs that you were collecting.
So the great thing is that we didn't have to measure that ourselves. These are high stakes tests that are that occur in these districts. What we did is we took a conscious effort with schools and school districts to measure high stakes tests independently measured results starting in 2017 and then all the way until 2019. 2020 results and 2021 results, as you may be aware, have not necessarily been shared, and not even to us, but it's almost independent. We were able to see at a school level and a district level the correlative improvement of these schools.
And was there a baseline against that as well? Like, could you show that it was your intervention that was making those differences?
Well, the reason why we shared only these two, State College and Harmony Public Schools, is because, well, we were the only, if it doesn't account for the teacher or the or an additional curriculum or a different technology, so we're the only solution used there as a measure of change. Right. Now, you can't have a complete sterilized trial there.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Joaquin. That was wonderful. Thanks, judges. Next up, we have Dan speaking from Unifrog. Dan, oh, there you go. Camera's on. And your mic should be on. When you are ready, please feel free to share your screen and your slide deck.
Nice one. Thanks, Roland. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Yeah.
Great. Nice one. Okay. All right.
I think speak up a tiny little bit, Dan, just for clarity.
Yeah, cool. Is that okay?
That's perfect.
Perfect, cool. Hi everyone, my name's Dan. I'm the CEO at Unifrog, and our mission at Unifrog is to level the destinations playing field when it comes to students finding the best next step for them after school. So we do that predominantly through our online platform that schools subscribe to on an annual basis. And we're working with just over 2,500 schools around the world. So the issue that we're essentially trying to tackle is faced by young people all around the world. There's a couple of stats here linked to the UK. So for those not aware, NEET stands for not in education, employment or training. So these are students going on to nothing essentially after school. And that's kind of the more sort of acute measurable problem that we're trying to deal with. But there's also a bigger issue, which is just there's so much out there for students to consider when it comes to the different pathways, career progression opportunities there are. So we're trying to put together something that means students can make really informed decisions, find the right pathway for them, and know what the sort of steps are really to get into that pathway that they're interested in. So like I said, we do that with our online platform, and this supports students who are kind of like age 11, 12 to think about personality quizzes, record different activities and skills, all the way through to students who are thinking about their next steps to use our search tools, where they can contrast and compare all kinds of different opportunities out there, whether that's apprenticeships, university courses all around the world, to decide what they want to apply to. And then we help them to build those applications. And there's a whole management tool as well for teachers to manage the process, give feedback, and support their students. So in terms of impact, we've got almost 1 million active users on the platform at the moment. And that's not just like web traffic. These are students logging in, actively engaging with the platform. Feedback's been fantastic. And then we recently did our first proper impact assessment. And we were like really proud to find that, yeah, Unifrog's now essentially preventing 4,000 students from becoming NEET this year alone. And that's just, like I said, the easily sort of measurable bit. There's going to be tens of thousands of students using the platform every year who are finding different opportunities and learning about new kind of career pathways that are out there that they might not have found, and are hopefully going to have far more fulfilling futures as a result. Here's just to give you an idea of our growth, our sort of sustainability, and we brought more new schools on board last year than any year before. And yeah, it doesn't stop there. We're proud of what we've achieved so far, but what we're trying to do now is add not just to the destinations piece, but we're doing a lot of work around global citizenship. So there's a whole part of the tool devoted to supporting students when it comes to think about things like the climate crisis, anti-racism, learning more about these areas. And we've started to work more with universities and soon employers who are feeding into this with content collaboration and interesting webinar series and stuff like that. So lots of exciting stuff to come. Thanks for your time. Happy to take any questions. Cheers.
Excellent, Dan. Just in time. Real. Judges, any questions?
I always have questions if others don't. Let me just ask a quick one, Dan. Thanks. I love that this is a fairly unique problem that you're going after. I wasn't clear how you're recruiting the partners that you mentioned, sort of universities and a bunch of other kind of. What's your process for getting them involved in participating?
Yep. So for them, I mean, there's kind of two advantages, I think, for them. One is a little bit more brand awareness by being involved, but we're very clear what we don't want to do is go down a pathway. We're really clear about being independent and impartial, so it's not about advertising. It's very much about adding useful content to what we do. So our webinar series are all about kind of demystifying subject areas, application tips, but it does obviously help them to raise their profile a bit. But what's quite cool that we found is they largely want to align themselves with our mission. They're into what we're doing. And yeah, so far so good, really.
Katerina?
Sorry if I missed it, but can I check if you're following up with your users? So once they've applied, what's the success rate and how they're progressing with their applications?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and it's one that's been tricky in the past because essentially, once they finish their applications, they leave Unifrog. But now that we are starting to partner with more universities and employers, we're working. Another cool thing actually that I should have added is we're working with those partners as well to understand more about that journey, when students learnt about that opportunity. So that's kind of an exciting research piece for us coming up, I think, basically.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Dan. It's wonderful. So thank you to everybody. Next up, we have Zubair speaking for his company, ZNotes. My WhatsApp seems to always be beeping every time my microphone is on. Sorry about that. Zubair, your camera is on. You are unmuted. When you are free, please feel free to share your screen and we will start.
Yes. Can you hear and see me all right?
We can indeed.
Amazing. Let me just put this up. Thanks so much, Roland. It's been great to hear so many of the great pitches. My name is Zubair. I'm the founder of Keynote, and my story begins in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, where I grew up as an expatriate and went through a British education system and witnessed educational inequality firsthand. As I sat for my first set of GCSE exams, I came to the realization that there would be hundreds of thousands of students taking that exact same exam as me, and yet some would have access to subject tutors for every single subject that they do, while others would struggle to pay for just the exam entry fees. So I was 16 and I thought, what can I do about this? And I started a small WordPress blog to share educational resources online. And 7 years later, Keynote has transformed into a community-led online learning platform that allows students to maximize their potential by having free and unlimited access to high quality educational resources. So it started off with my revision notes and it's expanded into live videos, podcast newsletters, and all tying together in a peer-to-peer learning space, all created for students by students. And over that period of time, we've been able to reach almost 3.5 million students, teachers, and educators from 156 countries, and had almost 24 million total hits. Our latest learning platform now has 100,000 registered users, and an assessment on our social impact found that for every dollar invested, we were producing $28 worth of impact. So what are these Keynotes? The Keynotes are concise and very syllabus specific revision notes that are written for students by students. And from that exam board that I was studying, the Cambridge one back years ago now, we've expanded into 7 international exam boards with almost 100 student contributors and hundreds of sets of resources. When it came to the pandemic, we saw the difficulties and inequality when it came to online education. And so we started our YouTube channel producing, again, video content, and have since then almost 700,000 views on our content and 9,000 subscribers. We are talking a little bit more broadly about the future and career progression on our podcast with great partnerships, and also democratizing the information, which is so critical when we talk about university admission, by partnering and bringing on faculty members as well as past students to talk about university admission processes. How does it all work? Well, we get really incredibly high achieving students apply to the platform to contribute. And when we select and make sure that they have those academic credentials, we interview them, we work with them to co-create the content that will ensure that it's tackling those syllabus specific points. And as we get to the final stages, we make sure we peer review and publish it online. As I mentioned, a community is a big part of this, and we use Discord as our platform to make this happen. And I will hopefully, if someone asks me a question in the question section, I can add a bit more. But we see not just peer-to-peer learning happening, but also social capital redistribution. We've had incredible support along the way. Of course, Educate is up there. I was the youngest participant in Facebook's Community Accelerator program, received grant funding, and had some awesome collaborations.
Thank you.
Our funding model, okay, that's all right. Thanks.
Thank you. That's great. Judges, how do we feel?
I would like to ask about the impact, or you mentioned the return on investment in terms of impact, and you said that for each dollar invested, we had $28. 28 cents of impact. How do you quantify that? How does that get measured? That idea of that impact return?
Of course. So it was done by an external organization. So we were provided all the data, and that was the assessment that was carried out. But essentially, it looked at all the users who were registered, all the users who were engaging with our content and resources, and benchmarking against the same type of resource if you were to try to receive it in a premium fashion. And when that kind of assessment was carried out, it was also looked into all the volunteer efforts that were put into the organization, all the time and investment, and that comparison was made, and that's how it came out to be around $28 worth of impact.
Will you just say something about your business model?
Yes, of course. So we are very keen and it's part of my kind of personal motto of never putting a paywall against students. So we've been able to do what we do by having grant funding support some of our work. We do have advertising running on our website right now as well, but we would like to veer away from it and make sure we have developed corporate sponsorship deals and referral partnerships to make sure and ensure that our content is available to all for free.
Thanks very much, everybody. Bro.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Uber. So we're running a little bit ahead of schedule, which is great. So next up, we have Charles Wiles from Zish. Charles, let me find you if you don't. Oh, there you go. And have you got your microphone and camera on, Charles?
Yes, can you hear me? I can't actually get my camera on. It says.
Let me see if I can do that for you. It's these weird Zoom settings.
Okay.
Yeah, that should work now. So yeah, we've got everything. We can see your screen share there. So there we go. My WhatsApp has just pinged again while I'm on audio. So when you are ready, Charles, please take it away, and I will start the stopwatch.
Great. Well, hello. My name is Charles Wiles, and here at Zish, we give teachers the superpowers to personalise their teaching. According to UNICEF, 617 million children worldwide are failing to reach minimum proficiency levels in maths and literacy, and we're fixing this. Educators just don't have the time to personalise their help. A typical secondary school teacher will teach 200 more students every week. How on earth do they find the time to understand each student's individual needs and give each the personalised help they really need? And how do school leaders stay on top of the progress of every class and give teachers personalised help too? Well, we solve these problems with Zish, a smart data platform that makes it easy for educators at all levels to personalise the help they give every day. Teachers use a fun whole class quiz going Quizalize to get real-time mastery data in the classroom, and this data is then aggregated every day into Zish insights for school leaders. Quizalize tells teachers exactly which students are struggling with which learning objectives, enables them to create groups of students sharing the same learning gaps in real time, and gives them the tools to automatically differentiate follow-up assignments. We then show school leaders which classes are struggling with which learning objectives every day. We enable them to take early targeted interventions to address emerging issues and let them track the impact of those interventions over time. We've had tremendous growth over the last 2 years. We saw a 6 times increase in teachers signing up to Quizalize in 2020, and are now seeing more than 1,500 teachers sign up to Quizalize every weekday. And we're having an impact on learning. Our technology really works. In Round Rock, Texas, they found that Quizalize improved students' end-of-year state standardized test scores by 8 to 10%. In Mooresville, North Carolina, they found that Quizalize reduced the attainment gap in quarterly tests by 8%. Bournemouth College found increased pass rates by 25%. And we're proud of the fact that we're having an impact in both developed and developing countries, and being particularly successful in the Philippines. Our goal is to be successful in every market and capture share of a global $11.5 billion annual revenue opportunity. We sold to teachers and schools in 77 different countries so far, but our initial work has been in 2 markets, the USA and the Philippines. We're currently focused on 2 revenue streams, teacher direct subscriptions and partnerships, but in the long term, school, district and government sales will provide the lion's share of our revenue. This year, we will make $500,000 of revenue, and we expect to make nearly $60 million of revenue in 2026. Partnerships with leading worldwide brands are providing a particularly effective way for us to scale up quickly and at low cost. We're raising on Crowdcube now, so support us and help us reach the 617 million children failing to reach minimum levels of maths and literacy worldwide. Thank you.
Dynamite, Charles. That's wonderful. Judges, how do we feel? Becky?
I'll jump in. So 500,000 up to 60 million is a lot of growth over the next few years. Can you tell us in a little bit more detail how you think you can viably do that? So what are those steps, and can you give us a sense of kind of your tangible pathway to have that kind of growth?
Yeah, so absolutely. So we're starting off with our Teach Direct and partnership revenue. And of course, the challenge we have as a small startup is we don't have the funds to build a big US school and district sales team, right? But partnerships, leading worldwide brands, Oxford University Press, Consortium of Jewish Day Schools, Scouts, Pearson, Tholan's. These are all people we're working with. They have great brands, great network access, and great content. We have great technology, and we're sort of going with what we call the the Quizlize Inside model or the Intel Inside model. You know, we provide the technology to these leading brands and they take it out worldwide. And that, you know, our model is all about that, allows us to scale quickly. In the long term though, to get that 60 million point, we know that we need to sell, you know, the single biggest EdTech segment in the whole wide world is the US school district market. And so we know we need to build a capability to sell into that ourselves to really hit those numbers.
Any other questions?
I have one if others don't. So the assessments themselves, the sort of formative assessments, which I love that you're focusing on that. How much are custom versus templated? Are there examples and models? I just didn't get that. You said you had partners, but are they providing sort of sample assessments that are aligned to standards, or how's that working?
Yeah, so one way to think of us is a bit like Kahoot on steroids, right? So we have a massive public database of actually 1 million resources, around 500,000 quizzes, but we also put YouTube videos and other things into it. When we work with partners, of course, we actually use their content. So we ingest it or help them create it digitally if they don't have it already. So for example, Oxford University Press, we actually digitized their textbooks and have matching apps with their textbooks. Sorry, I'm not sure that's answering your questions. Did I answer your question?
No, that's good. So I guess what I was understanding is you have the ability, just to clarify, teachers have the ability to create their own quizzes, but you also then work to align sort of preset libraries of aligned questions, yes?
And one really important difference between us and Kahoot is that we're everything in our platform is curriculum aligned. So we create standards and ingest standards. We've ingested around 150 standards from around the world so far.
Right, but so then very clearly, can teachers create their own custom
yes,
assessments?
They can, and they can tag it to standards in their
Perfect. That was what I was looking for. Thank you. That's great.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Joel. Cool. So that is the end of the pitches part of the event. Some absolutely wonderful interventions and wonderful pitches. So thank you. I will say it again at the end of the event, but thank you very much for all of your contributions today, and thank you to the judges as well. This has been wonderful. So what we're going to do now is we are going to initiate an EdTech roundtable discussion, which, as I said at the start, would be led by a friend of the program, Tom Hooper, who's the founder and CEO of Third Space Learning. And we are going to have, we're very privileged to have contributions from Educate Accelerator program alumni of the past, Blue Shift Coding, Busu, and Tassamai. And I'll let each of those individuals introduce themselves in a minute. Tom, if I just find you and activate each of your videos, you will be able to unmute yourselves and sort of introduce yourselves as soon as you are ready. For the judges, I'm going to open a breakout room, and hopefully, if this works as intended, whisk you away into the breakout room to confer on the semi-finals winner for the UK and the two runners-up for the GESAwards bootcamp. So, Tom, if I am okay to hand over to you to sort of take the reins and begin the discussion, I'd be most grateful for that in your own time. Please feel free.
Brilliant. Thank you, Roland. It was good to hear some of the pitches there as well. So we, myself, Kirsten, Murray and Heather are going to talk about our experiences of how we've used data, evidence research to build our businesses, to understand our customers, and to innovate and learn. We're going to be, the first question we kind of want to pose to the panel is about, it might sound a little heretical given the audience, but ask the question is research valuable in building an EdTech business? And if so, why and where? So that's the kind of the direction we want to start off in. First and foremost, I want to hand over to, I'll start with Kirsten just for a 60-second introduction to her and to Busu as well.
Thanks, Tom. Hello, everybody. Thanks for the invitation. I'm Kirsten. I'm Chief Learning Officer at Busu. Been working in EdTech and mostly digital language learning for around 20 years. At Busu, I run the education team, and I also oversee efficacy in our business. And in the 6 years I've been at Busu, I've done a lot of research, and I've run 2 external efficacy studies, which have been quite significant for Busu, and hopefully get to explain a little bit more about that as we go through the event.
Heather, should we pass over to you?
Hi, I'm Heather. I'm the founder of Blue Shift Education. I started this business about 8 years ago. I started teaching coding classes for children out of my house as a response to parents who were asking me to teach coding. I had a background in software development and expressed an interest in teaching coding. And I grew the company to now teach about over 2,000 children every year through a network of about 30 schools that we work with. And I did educate about a few years ago, kind of looking for a product because I was really struggling to scale my business. And an opportunity presented itself in a way with COVID, unfortunately, but we suddenly had to move all our teaching online, and I realized it would be a fantastic moment to gather quite a lot of data around how students were faring with the move to online and how their learning was affected. And we gathered over 1,500 pieces of data and used it to come up with a proposal for a new tool that resolved a lot of their pain points. And since that point, I've built a proof of concept, a prototype that we've been testing with end users of that. And we won an Innovate UK award for our work there. And it was through employing the use of data and evidence that actually has taken my company in a very sort of interesting and potentially much more lucrative direction. So.
Brilliant. Thank you, Heather. Murray, let's hand over to you.
To unmute, sorry, I don't want to start like that. I'm Murray. I'm the founder of Taskmy. Very nice to meet you all, by the way. Taskmy, for those of you who don't know, is an online quizzing program used through the country at schools mostly as a homework tool, but it's a sort of adaptive quizzing program that gives very rich data insights back to teachers. And I built it really originally as a pen and paper card game for my students. I really wanted to just improve my teaching. I was mostly science and a maths teacher. But of course, developing the program, it's always been essential for me to be very research-based in the product development, always trying to analyze exactly where my students' needs were and how the intervention I was providing was affecting their outcomes, really. So it's always been at the core of what we've done. So a few years ago, when we came across Educate as a program, it was exactly the right fit for us because we really wanted to scale what I was doing in my shed. I'm in my shed. I was trying to scale that up to something that could work at scale for the kind of volume we're doing now, where students answer over 2 million questions a day on our site. We want to make sure their time's not wasted and the efforts they make are impactful for them. So that's kind of where we're at the moment, what we're about in terms of research.
Brilliant. Thank you, Murray. And just about myself, so I founded a business called Third Space Learning in 2013. We provide online one-to-one maths tuition to children in primary and secondary schools in England. We also have a small partnership in the US, but it's a kind of minority experiment, I'd call it right now. The way we do this is we recruit mathematicians in India and Sri Lanka and soon to be the Philippines, where we have access to a huge population of passionate mathematicians, well-educated, speak English online, in order to make one-to-one tuition more affordable, more accessible, and at scale to children in need in schools in England. We've delivered north of 1.1 million hours now of teaching to 100,000 children, about 45% of whom are eligible for pupil premium. So we are certainly hitting the audience of children that we aim to work with, and it's been very well evidenced and indeed received in schools across the country over the last 8 or 9 years. We were lucky enough to start working with Rose and her team in, I think it was 2015, so kind of preceding Educate. So it's been amazing to see the success of Educate since then. And the original challenge we went to Rose with was to describe the outcome that we wanted for the children that we work with in terms of attainment and attitude, and work with her to try and translate that back into science, evidence, and a more quantifiable way of building and understanding our product and our service, which it remains an open question. It was a difficult subject to solve, but it's very much informed the DNA of the business, of the curriculum, of the service, of the tutor training that we deliver. So it's great to be here today and see the the new companies coming through the Educate program. So the question I want to put to Kirsten, Heather, and Murray, which is one that I still debate 8-9 years into the business, is why we use evidence, why research, why involve research within the business. Is it for sales? Like, do we actually need it to sell to customers? Is it for retention, product development? Is it for investors? Why do you use evidence and research within the business? Where and for whom? Murray, I'm going to put that back to you now, as you were the last one. So if you could give us your thoughts on that, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, spoiler alert, I mean, I think it's absolutely essential that EdTech companies are researching, and I think it's our moral responsibility as well to be conducting honest research in our products and using that to ensure that our products are as good as they can be, or aspiring to be. Yeah, what do we use evidence for, or what should EdTechs use evidence for? In my opinion, first of all, it is to set baselines of what your product's doing, how it's doing it, and to then, through further iterations of your products and services, improve on those things. And as far as using it for, I think you said you use them for sales and that sort of thing. I don't really like the idea of using evidence as a sales and marketing tool, but in those conversations you have with potential customers, it's really great to be able to say, look, we've done the work and we can show it has an impact. So that there's not a case of kind of buyer beware, or people feeling that they bought into something they don't have confidence in. But I think that comes later. The purpose of research for me is about making the product good and making it continually strive to improve.
Yeah, I'd agree. I remember a head teacher, I think this was early in probably 2014. I was trying to pitch third space learning to a head teacher. And I talked her through some evidence we had about, why third space was great. And she just said, well, you would say that, you're trying to sell to me. And I didn't really have a response to that. But yeah, it's I would agree, trying to prove your product works for sales, I've always slightly struggled with. I've always found that schools, their view has tended to be that the evidence they want is proof of that product working within their school, not proof of that product working in someone else's school.
Well, and I think that's really vital for quality of evidence, that it takes you from something that says, oh, this is a thing that worked once, oh, we'll copy that, we'll use that, to something that says, this is a thing that works like this in this context. So if your context is like that context and your implementation is the same, then you can expect these results, and you can start to become much more honest in those conversations, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where peer review comes in very importantly. Kirsten, I mean, you've got a huge number of customers that you work with, and the data that comes from that, and have been involved in, I think you've commissioned a couple of trials as well. Oh, sorry, like deep and independent research as well. So it'd be good to hear what you have to say about this.
Yeah, I mean, I would say evidence is important for all of the things that you've mentioned, but rather like Murray and yourself, I think that for sales and marketing, almost that's the least important. For us, I mean, we have over 100 million customers, but most of them are not going to read an efficacy report or actually go looking to see whether we have gathered any evidence. But for us, doing our first external efficacy study was vital because it gave us confidence internally that the approach we were taking worked. And in fact, the results we've seen from the two studies that we've done have been so strikingly good that I struggle to convince academics that are accurate. There's a lot of suspicion, but it's not them that I'm trying to persuade. In the first instance, it was my own team. And because we were working on app-based learning, which at that time in language learning was a very new thing, I think we all had internal doubts about is this better than being in a classroom and using a textbook? And 6 years later, I would say none of us have any doubts about that. And what we're now trying to do is incrementally improve on another thing Murray said, the baseline. So we have a baseline now. And every product iteration that we make, we're thinking, okay, next time we do an efficacy study, how can we examine this part of what we're doing now, and how can we assess against our previous results? So it's given us tremendous confidence internally. I would also say it's very important with investors, not necessarily so much for attracting investment, but for actually telling who the good investors are, because the good investors will say to you, what have you done to evidence learning outcomes? The bad ones won't ask you that. I think it's really vital for investor conversations as well.
And Kirsten, do you work with, I think you mentioned there were 2 external research organizations you had worked with. Do you work with them on an ongoing basis, or were they one-off reports that you did with them?
Yeah, so we work with an established researcher in the US who has moved institutions. So we work with 2 separate institutions, but the same research team.
Okay.
And they do most of the sort of app-based, language learning app-based research, which is why we went with them, because they had an established methodology.
Okay. Thank you, Heather. I mean, Kirsten. Heather, let's go to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of at a different stage, but it's been interesting because I've been teaching computing, and it's such a new subject in the curriculum that and we do it in kind of an extracurricular fashion a lot of the time, that schools don't even necessarily know what questions to ask around attainment, but we have to be monitoring it and ensuring that our content is pitched appropriately, and that our lessons are effective. Otherwise, again, we teach in an extracurricular capacity, the students won't return. So there's a real kind of commercial correlation to evidence for us, because if students don't feel like they're learning anything, or they're not really improving on their own skills, they won't return. Because with us, it's, again, they're coming to us because they want to learn to code, and it's an extracurricular thing. It's not necessarily always part of the curriculum. So we've implemented efficacy studies within our own classes, and again, it's not for selling or marketing to schools, because the schools almost don't know what to look for. It's just they're almost afraid to even teach it themselves, because it's such a new topic. So we've used it just a lot of the time just for quality control, to ensure that we keep our enrollment up. Because students do want to learn. They're self-motivated, and they really want to get something out of the classes that they take with us. And in terms of the new platform that we're developing, I think the idea is we're embedding so much data gathering within it, from the get-go, that there'll be quite a lot of learning engineering involved in the whole kind of design and iteration of the platform as we go. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I am coming at it from sort of a slightly different angle.
Yeah, one of the things I've always wanted to do, we don't currently do at the moment. We obviously have to have our accounts audited for our investors and as a business, and we spend, I don't know what we spend on that, but it doesn't come for free. I've always liked the idea of trying to introduce an annual impact audit as well, that should be as important as the financial audit, but we haven't done that yet. But it's something I feel we should do, and it comes back to Kirsten's point as well of our investors have entrusted millions of pounds into the business. Should they be asking for that level of audit in addition to the financial audit? I don't know. One of the things that I have a question for, it's probably more for Heather and Murray than Kirsten, but one of the challenges we've had as a business is that the outcome that schools want from using our service is one that's often measured outside of our service. So they will use us, as an example, we have a lot of year 6 pupils who use third space learning ahead of their SATs. So whilst we track progress through the sessions we deliver, so every child sits a diagnostic assessment, the tutor marks them in every session they deliver, and they do pre and post session quizzes and post program quizzes. So we capture a lot of data. Nonetheless, the actual outcome that we're measured against is one that sits outside of the platform in class tests or exams. So you've got a natural gap between kind of input of third space learning and the output that we're measured against, which is quite difficult for us to kind of, you come back to that word, audit against. I mean, Heather, Murray, is that a challenge you face? And if so, how have you tried to manage that disparity? Murray, you first.
All right. Well, it's a tricky one, and I'm in two minds about it, really. A large piece of research we did recently was specifically about trying to decouple what we measure on our platform from what outcomes we can measure. In other words, what we wanted to do was look at our data and compare it to independent assessment so that we could peg that for its own veracity, right? So it's otherwise one can fall into the trap in an EdTech company of going, well, we did this thing and we measured this improvement on our platform. Well, there's possibly a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy in there. And so having that external set of data and making those comparisons can be great. But of course, especially with things like SATs results, it's then difficult to know how those results have changed, how people have progressed, and it's a minefield. But I think there's value in doing research against external assessment rather than just internal. I think you've got to do both. So I slightly lost my thread there, but I think it's vital to try to get external assessment so that you can measure the quality of what you're measuring internally as well, essentially.
Yeah, with us, again, we're sort of in a funny space because we're in tech education, and it's still kind of in its infancy in a way in terms of being brought into the curriculum. And there's the National Center for Computing Education has done a great job of creating standards that we can at least test to or measure our work against. And some actually of our corporate partners do have badging and assessment that we could, again, like some of the software platforms that we teach have credentials that our students could be measured against. But I think it's just been a bandwidth issue in terms of maybe incorporating some of those external assessment measures into our curriculum, and then we'd have control over it. I think it sits a little bit outside the kind of traditional education system where we lie. But again, the way you would measure us outside of the work that we do is through coding competitions or through, again, like these sort of assessment or badging levels for some of the software that we teach, which would be very exciting for children because then they feel like they've got a real credential, that like a real world credential for a piece of software. I don't know if I've answered your question, but we're kind of in a funny space that way in terms of attainment.
And I think one point that you both kind of made there is we, like all of our services, are one part of a bigger picture, certainly within the school. And I'm always amazed, frankly, at how much credit teachers give us for the impact that we have. That we are 45 minutes a week with a child, when depending on what stage they're at, they're doing 10 plus hours of maths learning every week. So we are a relatively small part. Now, clearly, we might be the variable that comes in at point A, which changes the trajectory for their results up to point B. But it's a complex picture of child's education. And so trying to tease specific attainment growth out of it is challenging. Kirsten, I had a question for you. Actually, I had two questions for you. First one was, you obviously have customers in, I'm going to guess, most countries in the world.
We say 190 plus. I haven't counted them personally.
I didn't know there were that many countries. Okay, so how do attitudes change in different countries, or maybe continents will help, in terms of what people expect in regards to evidence to use the service, to continue using the service? I mean, I'll sort of leave that a little bit loose, but attitudes for consumers to evidence in terms of EdTech across different continents.
Do you know, I haven't really observed any appreciable difference, other than we have a lot of customers in what we call the DACH region, so the Germanic countries. And perhaps a little stereotypically, they are a bit more interested in evidence and in clear explanations of it. But that's really the only cultural or market-based influence I've noticed in relation to evidence. Everybody cares about it.
Okay, my second question then, which I think is is relevant to a lot of the younger companies on this call is, at what point is it worth bringing in external support to research your business to help you understand it? And I give Third Space as an example here of, I think, when not to do it. We did an RCT, a randomized control trial, in our 4th term of operations. And bear in mind, the first 2 terms was just me running like operations in India, sales, marketing, customer support in England, product. I mean, it was ridiculous. And that RCT showed no statistical evidence of impact. And I think it was a very fair conclusion at that point in time. I think the whole report was very fair, but it's not surprising. We were incredibly immature. And indeed, during the 2 years that RCT was running, we went from, I think, 70 schools to about 600 schools, and the business completely transformed. And in hindsight, it was a ridiculous thing to take on an RCT when we were 4 terms into our life. So I suppose my question, and I'll put this back to Kirsten, when do you think a company is mature enough to take on the responsibility, or stable enough maybe, to take on the responsibility of using sort of longer term external organizations for trials? And before that point, how might a young, immature company best use research for the speedy circles of innovation that they need?
Yeah, it's a great question. We didn't go and do a big external efficacy study until we were, I think, maybe our 6th or 7th year in operation. And it was the right time for us. And there are a number of considerations. So one is, can you afford it, right? Yeah. Depending on who your research partner is, and that the more prestigious that the institution you work with, the more expensive it is. Can be expensive, it's time consuming, and it will distract key people in your business potentially. So you need to be of a large enough organizational size to have some people that you can dedicate to this. I worked with interns on both projects who are extremely helpful, but you do need someone internally to project manage and make it work, and someone internally who understands research as well. I would certainly advise any young organization not to worry too much about a big external efficacy study, or certainly not an RCT, which, as we've seen, many of them show very little statistical significance. And that's the other thing. You have to be big enough to be able to absorb bad news, right? So if the research comes back and says, hey, there's no impact or a negative impact of what you're doing, you need to be able to deal with that. So you can't have a marketing campaign riding on it, or the success of your business riding on it. You need to be able to absorb that and move forward. To your other question, what I would advise a company to do, it's not that you shouldn't be doing your research in your early years. You should be focused on product market fit and user research. But if you want to do some kind of efficacy research, there are amazing interns at universities across the world, students doing masters who are looking for experience in EdTech businesses. Go and find them. Go and talk to the course organizers. I mean, I've had 2 absolutely stunning interns from Oxford who have run rings around some of the external researchers who've been in academia for years. And I can tell you that the next time we do efficacy research, I've learned a lot from our interns. Get them to come and help you run an internal efficacy program. And learn from that. And you don't have to publish it externally, but you could, if the results are good and you feel that they're valid. There's lots that you can do very cheaply internally using master's students, I would say.
Okay, thanks, Kirsten. Heather, I don't know, what's your views on either the stage of maturity when to do that, or of kind of how to manage it before then?
Yeah, no, I think, definitely I would have done a whole bunch of studies internally before I would bring in an external person. And I come from my background's actually in software design. So we're at a stage right now where we do rapid prototyping and iteration of the actual piece of tech. So, and that's actually quite inexpensive we involve the students in what we're doing, and then we can use a cheap prototype to test out different ideas to see what might be more effective in terms of a piece of software for them to use, because the problem we're solving is sort of has to do with cognitive load and the poor design of tools that students are using at the moment. So I'm quite experienced myself in doing quite a lot of internal studies around usability and rapid prototyping. So we just use cheap techniques internally to get a lot of feedback from students. And I would do it a lot of it internally before I reached, and made sure that I had a beta, a couple of beta trials at least of the software, and had it out in the world with real users before I brought in an external person.
Murray, I'm not going to ask you this question. I'm going to ask a different question. And it's about actually the technology side and kind of databases. I know, again, use ThirdSpace as an example of, or one of the many mistakes I've made over the last 8 years. One of the challenges I think we've had is as we launched and kind of built on our MVP and developed the product and the service, we often left ourselves in a position where the technology architecture wasn't flexible enough, so that the way we were capturing data limited our analysis and limited our ability to measure and adapt the measurements of the service we delivered. And I think that really constrained us in many ways. And it's not, at a simple level, like we've delivered 1.1 million hours of teaching. It's this huge database of lessons, lots of assessment around it. It sounds wonderful, but the reality when you dig into the kind of messy architecture behind it at times is it's not as valuable as you might hope it would be. I wondered if you had any advice for people on how to ensure that the way you capture data gives you the opportunity to research and understand your customers and your service to the greatest possible opportunity.
I'm terribly sorry, just to jump in there for a second, Tom. I'm just checking the time. I don't want to rush anybody, but there are several people that I think have to depart at 4. So if maybe this could just be the last question, that'd be super. Sorry to interrupt.
I'll speak quickly, Roland. Well, I think if you're right about this, Tom, and one of the problems we discovered early on, or I feel the pain of all the time, is when your data lives in a sort of obfuscated database, you're using engineering time to get at that data and do the analysis, which is awfully expensive. So I've learned the hard way, and we do huge volume of data, not quite in Boothly levels, I'm sure, but we took the steps quite early on to set up our system architecture so that we can dump the data out and then it can be analyzed by junior or slightly more idiotic people like me. I can use a spreadsheet and I can get into that data and do some learning early on without using really expensive engineers. So that I think is a really important tip. Get your data structure organized so that you can get it out of the database and have mere mortals look at it rather than engineers.
And there are some brilliant tools for that now as well, which is definitely to be promoted. Roland, should I be stopping there? Have we got a minute to see if anyone has any questions, or do we call it quits?
I think I have to be harsh and call it quits. I really appreciate all of your contributions.
Cruel, Roland, but thank you everyone nonetheless. Thank you, Kirsten. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Murray.
Yes, thank you, Tom, Kirsten, Heather, Murray. That was wonderful. What I'm going to do now is the judges are back from their secret judging, secret breakout, secret room, and we are going to have Richard Carter from ISTE unmute himself and announce the one UK semi-finals winner that has been chosen and the 2 runners-up for the GESA bootcamp. Richard, please, when you're ready.
Thank you. Happy to do that. And first, let me just share that there were some really fantastic products pitched to us, and this was not an easy decision, and we really were impressed by all the work that all the teams were doing. And so yeah, if there were more that we could highlight, we would. But unfortunately, we have some constraints that we were having to work under. And so I'll start with the runner-ups, and the first runner-up that I will share is the Zish platform. We've decided to recognize Zish in part because of the approach of really thinking about formative assessments in different ways, aligning to standards, really helping to use the assessment to improve instruction, not just to like decide whether you passed or failed a course. And we thought that was really impressive. And so congrats to the Zish platform as one of the runners-up. The next runner-up, and I have to say this because my co-judges would require me to do it. It was just a huge struggle to choose between the two. And if we could, I was actually back channeling Roland and saying, we really would like to have two go forward and one be runner up. And he said, sorry, the law has been set. We can't do that. If we could put two forward, we absolutely would have without question. And so the next runner up, that was a fantastic product, met a niche that is really important and was one of the best pitches we saw, was Bullet Map. And so congratulations to Bullet Map for that. Great goal and really fantastic pitch. In just a few words, we really understood what you were doing and love the work you're doing. And then our finalist, the one finalist that we put forward, we were impressed by how much it meets a need that is being experienced globally, and at the same time, how few other solutions are really moving into this space. And we thought this, just in the world we're in, the solution that is being provided is very timely, and it's a message that we want to be able to send very clearly to the world of the importance of this work. And so NatterHub is the solution that we will be putting forward as the winner. Thanks to the co-judges, we really had some great conversations about this. And Roland, thanks for the opportunity and for all of you for participating in this.
Thank you, Richard. That's really, really helpful and wonderful. Congratulations, Caroline. That's really great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, brilliant.
Wow. I'm so humbled and so grateful. Thank you so much. What an amazing lineup of people we've heard today, and of course as founders, co-founders, nobody gets to this point without such a lot of hard work and passion and enthusiasm and stickability. And so I'm so grateful. Thank you. What an honor. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Caroline. That's wonderful. I'm really glad that we could help. And to Darius and Charles as well, I'm really glad that we could help and provide a platform for you to showcase these wonderful interventions. What we'll do now is pass on your details to the mindset team who are working at GESA, who will be in touch with the winners, the winner and the runners-up, and we will take it from there. And we're going to promote it on social media. But as we're past 4 o'clock, obviously it's the weekend. We want everybody to relax. I just want to say a brilliant thank you to the wonderful judges that we've had who contributed their time. And in the case of, I think Ricardo contributed a ridiculous time of day from where he is. And thank you so much to the EdTech, to the contributors to the EdTech Roundtable as well, Tom, Kirsten, Heather, and Murray, who very lovingly gave their time over for the panel. And thank you to the contestants as well. I hope you all have wonderful weekends. I am going to let you all go because it's past 4 o'clock. And shut down the room. So thank you to everybody.
Bye.
Wish you all a great weekend.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care.
Everyone.